Welcome to the only wrestling podcast that covers the WWE developmental system from its inception to modern day. From OVW to MCW to HWA, Deep South, FCW, and much more. Hosted by Brian Asbury and Mortimer Blankenship. Now let's dive into what could have been, what should have been. Welcome to Developmentally Speaking.
Hey everybody, I'm Morty.
And I'm Brian.
And we have a very special edition of Developmentally Speaking today. We have a revisited episode. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we have Rico the Stylist Constantino here today.
Hello, guys.
It is an honor to have you on the video, on the podcast today. I am ecstatic. What about you?
Yeah. We've been trying to get this together for a while now. I'm excited.
For sure. So, once again, thank you so much for being on. And
you're welcome.
I guess we'll just get started. We'll start off with the first question we tend to ask is, what made you want to get into wrestling?
I've been a wrestling fan way back when I was a kid. Now, I'm 60 right now, so that's way time. That was AWA Vern Gagne's league with Rocky Johnson, Pat Patterson, The Sheik, all those guys. Mm-hmm. And I used to watch it every Saturday morning. And that's back when they had 3, 5, 8, 10, 13, and 2 UFH channels. Nowadays, we got 2,000 channels.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. My grandma actually used to have one of those, it was a battery black and white TV when I was a little kid that had the UHF and all that on it. So I actually know what you're talking about, believe it or not. So, yeah, for sure. So, you've been a wrestling fan basically since you've known what wrestling is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that we can relate to that for sure.
I was a big Ultimate Warrior mark. I love his energy.
Yeah, Ultimate Warrior. I'm sure he's on the wall somewhere around here. He's right over there. Yeah. But so how did you get into wrestling? What was the steps that you took to get into it?
I came back to Vegas in 1998 to help run my brother's bail bond business, and he was wrestling for EWF with Jesse Hernandez, having fun. And he said, "Why don't you come with? I'm 38 years old. What am I going to be bouncing around a ring for? I'm too late, I missed my window." And he says, "Just come down." So I went down and did a couple of sessions because they were in San Bernardino. We were in Las Vegas. It was work all day. 3.5 hour drive, 3 hour workout, 3.5 back, and then work. So after a few times, Jesse told me, "Why don't you think about it? You got some natural ability." So I started going regularly, and he fed off the American Gladiator fame.
Right.
And I had my championship belt and stuff like that. And like I told you, after 12 matches and 8 months in the business, a tape got sent up, and I got a call from Howard Finkel saying, "Do you want to do a 10-day tryout up in Connecticut?"
Wow.
I said, "Sure." That's when Nicole Bass was there, Mark Henry, and a few others.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to how good you really are. I mean, 12 matches and you get I mean, come on, that just shows you have a natural ability. So some people in the wrestling business, they learn everything. They learn everything from day one. You probably had that natural ability and then learn on top of it, right?
Yeah. I was I was the last student of Dory Funk Dojo.
Wow.
And we were sitting there in the cafeteria at the WWE Center, and Dory and his wife would ask a few questions for each wrestler, try to get a background. And there was about 4 or 5 people ahead of me. What's your name? Where you come from? How old are you? The basic stuff. How long you been in the business? Da-da-da. Gets down to me, and they spent like 2 or 3 minutes with each person. Comes to me, and he goes, "Oh, what's your name?" I tell him, "How'd you get in the business?" And I said, "Well, Jesse Hernandez. How long you been in the business?" I said, 8 months. He stood up, him and his wife, and walked away. That was it. That was the end of my interview. 35 seconds.
Well, okay. Yeah.
They were thinking, oh, somebody somebody did a favor.
Right. Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know.
Yeah, for sure. That's that. So, as you probably already know, me and Brian, we're from Southern Indiana, and we've grown up watching OVW, him OVW, and HWA a little bit. I'm primarily OVW, and I recall when you were in OVW, just an utter badass, like just like I remember even when when you went heel, I was still a mark for Rico, and
That was Kenny Boland's idea.
yeah,
Cornette said he'll never make it. He's our top baby face.
Right.
He'll never be a heel. And Kenny said, give me 6 weeks, and then if he can't make it, I'll give him back.
Right, but it just shows your skill. You can do both, and also it shows how good Kenny is as well as a manager. A good manager, which that's what I do in wrestling is management.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to get too far into this, but I think it's a dying art. You don't see
it is.
You don't
well,
see.
Look at me.
Right.
What was my first call up?
Right.
I was trained as a wrestler, barely that, and now I'm managing Billy and Chuck.
Yeah.
Throw me a curveball, why don't you?
Right. Absolutely. That's. So your time in OVW. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
What
So how?
Go ahead.
So the Dory Funk, and then what happened next? How did you get to OVW?
Well, it was a 10-day tryout, and I got food poisoning from the cafeteria in the middle of it.
Oh.
So, yeah, but I still wrestled. I would wrestle and do the exercises and then run to the bathroom.
Oh my God.
Come back out, wrestle, do the exercises, and go to the bathroom. And that's what I did for the rest of the time. In the last 2 days, we went to Kowalski's territory in the Army, barracks and stuff like that. We did wrestling shows. And right after that, I think it was Dr. Tom said, I think he's going to offer you a developmental deal.
Wow.
And then I heard Jim Cornette screaming in the back, what the hell? I didn't think that, blah, 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 blah. And Cornette comes charging at me and goes, I just heard you were 38 years old. I said, yeah. He goes, I thought you were 25. And then Jim said, listen, I'm going to OVW in July. I want you to be my first developmental in OVW. I said, okay. And when I found out how much the developmental deal was, I was like, oh man, I can't do that. There's no way. I got to support a family and kids. So Yokozuna was living here, and I called Yoko, and we sat and we talked for a while. And the thing that stuck out in my mind, he goes, people would give their left arm and right leg to get what you're going to get. And I went, okay, I'll go for it. And then I did. And then I came back home, and in July, Cornette called me up. I drove up to Jeffersonville, and my first match was in Louisville Gardens against the Andretti brothers.
Our good friend of the channel, Vito Andretti.
Yeah.
We have another small segment called The Donut Hole, and he just tells stories from when he was in OVW, and it's more of one of our more mature adult shows. But yeah, he does some shows for us. I've worked with Vito since I got into the wrestling business, so I've known him for about 12 years.
Good job on the sideburns, though, I wanted to tell you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I've had those for a while.
Coming
too.
from an expert.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. So you get to OVW and start training down there. Like you said, we're Southern Indiana guys, Seymour, Indiana guys. Got any good Rip stories? Working with Rip, anything like that?
Oh, Rip is straight and to the point. No bull. He just tells you. I remember one time we were tagging, and the three guys weren't doing, me included, we weren't doing what Rip wanted to be done. And right in the middle of the tag match, he jumped off the ring and walked in the back. He just left us sitting out there. He's like,
wait,
what do we do now? Who do I tag off to?
so you were Rip's partner?
Yeah,
Oh man.
he walked out.
Oh well,
It's
that's
probably my fault. I mean, like I said, I was green and wet behind the other ear.
Right. Right.
I mean, my goodness, you know.
Right. Go ahead.
So, another thing with Rip, I remember one day he showed up at the arena and he showed us his wrestling boots, and his wife done took a blade to him and sliced him up.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That would. How would you react to that?
Oh, I'm sure that there's been lots of times like that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And this is way back in '99. You know, and we're now, what, 2022?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So the beginning of stages of the whole developmental territory, what was it like being around, you know, because when people say developmental or the OVW, they only talk about the big four, and we tried to get away from that and talk about everybody. So you were down there, you know, with the Damager, Doug Basham, Conway, Dinsmore, all, you know. What was it like the early stages of the developmental process? And
What I'll tell you this, and I've said it before, if it wasn't for Danny's hard, you know, his core guys, I'd have never made it. I listened to everybody. I listened to Conway, Dinsmore, Flash. That's a guy who is multi-talented. Flash Flanagan tells a story. He's passionate. I'm surprised he didn't get called up. I mean, that's a shame. That's a sin.
Yeah.
Because he has a lot of talent.
Yeah, I think the only time
He
I've
could
ever
do
seen
anything.
Flash on WWE was he was in some battle royale thing as a Russian guy, right?
Yeah.
And it's really sad. I've worked with Flash as well, and he's super talented guy. He was,
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he was.
And like I said, my first angle was Rob Conway, and I was a crutch. He was my, you know, he did everything. He called the matches and stuff like that, and I trusted him. Nick Dinsmore. I remember one time Nick and I were going to wrestle, and he goes, "What do you want to do?" And he's asking me, like I know. I said, "Well, let's do this, that, this, and that, and this." And he goes, "Well, okay, we could do that, but you know, this is one match. You don't have to get all your shit in." I went, "You asked me what I wanted to do. I don't know. Fit it in. I don't know how to do this stuff. I mean, I have 15 matches my whole life." You know, when I was in EWF, I think on my fourth match, I won the heavyweight title.
Wow. Like,
And then I got to wrestle the Honky Tonk Man. And he let me pin him 1, 2, 3 in the ring and break his guitar.
so like your fifth or sixth match, you were wrestling the Honky
Yeah.
Tonk? Wow.
As the heavyweight champion.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, you know, I'm still in my teens of matches, and I'm facing people like Rob Conway. Now he's like, no, I'm in my fifth or sixth match, and here I am, a champion against Honky Tonk Man. That's amazing to me. Like,
Yeah. And I asked him, because Jesse told me he never lets anybody pin him
right.
clean. Never. He always gets disqualified or count out or
Puts
something like
you
that.
over clean.
And I went and I asked Wayne, I said, "Why?" He goes, "I knew you had it when you gave me the headlock takeover." He goes, "I knew you had it."
That's amazing. That's
From a headlock takeover. And he just flowed with the rest of the match. Called, he talked in my ear, what we're going to do. And of course, you're going to listen. You know, not just because out of respect, it's because that man knows what he's doing.
yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
the greatest intercontinental champion. I mean, how long did he hold that title before Jim took it?
Man.
You know, so
that's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, I learned a lot from Jesse. Like I said, Jesse brought me from nothing to something, and then Danny took me from that to the big stage.
Right.
Like I said, Rob Conway, Dinsmore, Damager, Flash, you know, Kenny Bolin, you know, all those guys. But see, I was eager. I mean, I had no ego. I was even helping Nick on the Saturday classes when he trained the people who paid that wanted to be wrestlers. I would go to his class just so I could learn. Mick is a fantastic technical wrestler. He reminds me of Benoit. He's just so technical. Got it together. He's got the moves, got the body, he's got the tude. He's just very smooth. So all Danny's guys, I give props to them, and if it wasn't for them, I would have never been Rico the Stylist.
Speaking of Rico the Stylist, let's talk about transferring into, WWE. So how did that go from going from OVW, getting the call up? What exactly was the process?
Was that
Well, actually, I was going to get
the original?
I was going to get
gimmick?
cut. Pardon me?
Was that always the original idea for you, or was it? No.
No, they were going to cut me. They're going to fire me right there after 90 days, and then Stone Cold, JR, Danny, Cornette, and Kenny wrote a letter to Stephanie saying, hey, you're going to fire him anyway. Just bring him up and let him do dark matches and see if you can think of something for him. So I did. And I was a heel one day, a face the next, heel, face. And then later on, I guess 60 days in, 70 days in, I saw Stephanie talking to, not my Miss Jackie, but Jacqueline. And they kept looking at, I'm stretching to go out and wrestle Raven. So I'm stretching and stuff. I'm wearing tights, and they keep looking at me and laughing. I'm like, what the heck's going on? Well, I'm not going to run up to Stephanie and go, what are you talking about? So they're looking, I'm checking if my zipper's down, but I'm wearing tights. I'm like, what's so funny? So after Stephanie leaves, I get a hold of Jack. I said, what are you guys talking about? She goes, well, I just got one question. Would you dye your hair blonde? If they asked me to, I would. And then she walked away. Then a few weeks later, I'm sitting at home not knowing, and then I get a call to go to Ottawa to fly up. Didn't tell me what. When I got there, I said, you're going to be Billy and Chuck's manager. And so...
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go there, and I didn't have any clothes. I didn't have anything. And I walked up to Vince, and I said, what? And he goes, you're a stylist. All right. What kind of style? Hairstylist? Toe stylist? What? He goes, flesh it out. Work it out yourself. And he left me with that. And I went, okay. So the first match, I think it was the Hardy Boys, I wore black on black. Black pants, black shirt. And I just had the chops growing out. Just had them. They were very light. And we did the match, and I hung Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy over the rope or something like that. And I went home, and I'm thinking, stylist. Sitting in a tanning bed, and I went, stylist. Why don't I be like that New York image consultant? And then the brain started going from there. And then so I developed the stylist character. And then I made a call to Godfather, because he lives here. Old Bear lives here. And he was semi-retired then. When he had the hoe train, he came out in all those fancy clothes. And I said, hey, Bear, I've got this character. And I explained it to him. I said, do you mind if I ask you where you got all your clothes? He told me where he got them. And I went there and I started shopping. Tiger print, leopard print, snakeskin, alligator, YMLO tight shirts. I just went there. I had belly button rings in my ear. If I wore red, I had red lenses. If I wore blue, I wore blue lenses. Blue rear rings. I took it to the extreme. And like I said, I kept interfering with Billy and Chuck, keeping the titles and stuff like that. And props to Billy Gunn, because I didn't know how to manage. And I told him, I said, I don't know what to do. He goes, stick with me, kid. I'll get you through it. Just like that. And he got me through it until I felt comfortable. But then I kept coming out with wackier stuff and doing crazier things. The martial arts has always been with me. I've been doing martial arts since I was 12.
Right. For sure. I always remember, this is sort of off topic, but I remember playing the video games, and I always remember picking Rico because it had so many martial art kicks and stuff, and I loved that. So I would always, or I remember in the Creator Wrestler there was Rico moves, and I would always give my Creator Wrestler Rico move sets and stuff like that. So,
they were different.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You spent a lot of time with 3 Minute Warning too. How did that come about?
Well, I think, as I understand it, Billy wanted to go on his own as a single, be the one Billy Gunn, badass Billy Gunn. Well, I guess he talked to people, and I guess they were going to split us up. That's why they had the wedding. And Rosie went and did shit, superhero in training. Jamal had an incident in Florida that he had to get straightened out. And that's when Triple H approached me to be the Adrian Street. Oh, no, that were right after 3 Minute Warning. I'm sorry, I got it confused. So they told me after the wedding I was going to go to Raw and use all the end of the wedding. That's why I jumped with Bischoff, because Bischoff was feuding with Stephanie. So I helped Bischoff get Stephanie with 3 Minute Warning. I was supposed to get them as much heat as I got Billy and Chuck. So that did a run there. My first match, I got to go against Ric Flair and pin him. So that was an honor.
That's crazy. That
spin kick right to the head and down he went. But the man chops hard. I will say that. It hurts.
Oh man.
So that's how that came about.
And then was it you and Charlie and Miss Jackie after that?
Well, first, 3 Minute Warning broke up, and that's when I jumped. And you couldn't have 2 Minute Warning because, like I said, Jamal had to handle some stuff back in Florida. So he went to superhero in training, and Triple H approached me about being this Adrian Street character. I said, "Is Adrian still alive?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I got to meet him and ask him if I can, plagiarize his character." So they flew me out, I think it was Gulf Breeze, spent about 10 hours with Adrian, and he told me how he made it work in the 70s. And I said, well, I need to bring the character to the millennium, up at the 2000s. I can't go stepping on women, treating them like crap, pushing them down or something. I'm going to get shot in the arena, equal rights and everything. I'm like, so we discussed it, and I told him what I was going to do. And I said, for letting me, copy his character, he had a wrestling outfit place, where he made wrestling gear called Skull Crushers. So that next year, everything I wanted, I ordered from Adrian as, to pay homage to him, thanking him for letting me do his character. They were going to give me Melina from ECW. That was going to be my valet. And I wanted Miss Jackie, Jackie Gata. Well, right around that time, Linda Miles and Jackie had that terrible Raw match live, and they were going down. Jackie was going to be sent down to OVW. And Stephanie asked me about the character, and I said, well, I need Jackie Gata. Well, you can't have her. She can't wrestle. I said, I don't need a wrestler. I need somebody to dote over me so I can get this character over, And she goes, and she finally said yes. So I got with Jackie and said, hey, this is what we're doing. You got an idea? Tell me. I got an idea. I tell you, this is a business relationship, and let's take it. And we did. And that girl, I'll tell you, that girl has heart. For months, we'd go to house shows and stuff like that, and she would get dressed up in her wrestling gear and go in the ring, and the boys would beat the shit out of her. Just tear her up. And I couldn't go in and save her, or else I'd have made it worse. But she took her licks, she paid her dues, and she ended up wrestling. We wrestled, against Trish. She did a bra and panties match. Jericho and Trish, me and Jackie. We did the 6-man at No Mercy. So Jackie really developed really well. Hats off to her for taking the bull by the horns.
Absolutely, good for her.
Yeah, good for her.
So,
but so I did the character.
Yeah,
it came out as a heel. I was a heel as the makeup character. Well, the fans ended up enjoying my entertainment and ended up turning me face. So I got killed by Kane, and then they brought me back on SmackDown, and I had the new look, and then I wrestled Charlie, my first match on SmackDown. I did Velocity with Jamie Noble first, and then I did a SmackDown with Charlie, and I kissed him, and he couldn't come back in the ring. He wouldn't come back in, so he got disqualified. So the next week we're in Canada, and Pat Patterson came up to me. He goes, you guys would make a good tag team. Okay, I just kissed the guy. What makes him think he wants to tag with me? He goes, I'll get it. And I said, well, I'm a face. Rikishi and Scotty Too Hotty are faces. Charlie's the only heel. How's this going to work? So he goes back in the production room and he talks to Vince. And next thing you know, we have a tag team title match. And Charlie has a mystery partner. And this is when they did the Raw bidding and stuff like that. And everybody switched. Well, Shelton wasn't going to come out because he was on Raw. Charlie was on SmackDown. So the mystery partner was me. And his face dropped when I came out in the ring. And then I did my shtick and stuff. And we were tag champions. So that lasted a while. That's because of Pat Patterson.
Wow.
He sold it to Vince.
It's a pretty cool idea,
I
actually.
always enjoyed the tag team with Charlie.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Well, see, that it was the odd couple.
Yeah.
What is it? Jackie liked me. I like Charlie. Charlie liked Jackie. Nobody knew what was going on.
The perfect
so
love triangle, if you will. Yeah.
It's all the dichotomy and angles and false finishes and stuff like that. And I kept patting Charlie on the ass, pinching his cheek, stuff like that. And Jackie would just love me, So nobody knew what the heck is this really. I do the prancing and all that stuff and do the funny stuff. But then when it came down to it, when I got in the match, when I got them off their game, I kicked their ass.
Yep.
So that's what I think the fans really got enjoyment from. I did all the funny stuff, and then all of a sudden, when it came down to business, time to win, it's time to win. Or I put up a good fight.
Right. Absolutely. Yep. For sure. I really, I appreciate what you did with the Stylist character, and that you did such a great job with it. But as being a selfish wrestling fan, there's part of me that would love. I wanted to see the Rico from OVW in WWE so bad.
Well, Vince didn't want me.
I know.
Anyway, because I was too old. So that's why he gave me these characters. Yeah. You don't get to pick your character. Right. He tells you what to do. Yeah. I was doing fine in OVW as being myself.
Speaking of that, I never found out what was your wrestling moniker, Cobra or something at one time? Because you had...
I was morphing. I was trying to morph into something. Okay. So I brought out the Cobra character. After I had my leg when I tore my quad, my patella tendon. So I came back with a vengeance, hitting Flash in the head with a chair. I turned heel. I lined up with Kenny, and it was a good storyline. It took weeks for me to sign the contract with Kenny. And the people were like, oh, no, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And then I did it, So I think me being me would have been fine for the business. I'd adapted. But that's not what the upstairs wanted.
Right. Well, you got anything else you need to ask?
You're always a memorable. Like, nobody will ever forget Rico on the main roster. They won't. It's always like I can think back of your tag team with Charlie, with 3 Minute Warning, with Billy and Shaq. You were a big part of my childhood, and I just want to thank you for everything that you did, because I feel like a lot of people don't get a lot of credit because of the hard work and the effort they put in to get to that main roster, and that doesn't define your career. It's everything as a whole, and I enjoyed everything from the beginning and until the end, and I just wanted to thank you for everything you did over the years.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the one thing I miss totally. Well, one, I love wrestling. I love the wrestling business. The most thing I have people ask me, what do you miss the most? And to tell you the truth, I miss my fans. Mm-hmm. I miss my fans because, you're probably thinking, how did I come up with some of these crazy ideas? How did I come up with this? How did I come up with that? And how I did it is after every show, house show or taping, I would go out, I'd sign autographs, take pictures and stuff like that. And there was always 10 or 15 people. You know what would be funny? And I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
and I'd write it down.
Yeah.
I'd go home, get my massage, work out, lay in the tanning bed, and think about what they said and see if I could put it into my character. So the fans were as much as this character, part of this character as I was. They helped me. I listened to them.
That's beautiful.
And they got what I gave.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
Sure.
So for my career to last 7 years, I think, most of it was due to the fans, OVW fans, and like I said, I held 3 titles in 2000, HWA, Power Pro, and OVW.
That's amazing.
So I was in 3 territories. That's how much Cornette believed in me. Les Thatcher believed in me. Danny believed in me. But I did put the work in. So it's not easy, and I appreciate you saying I have talent, but you have to put the work in.
Oh, yes.
You have to. And Danny's guys worked with me. Every time I could learn something from those core guys, I took it to heart, digested it, worked it out in my head. I've got ADD and OCD, with a splash autism, but I use it as a positive, not a negative. And you probably heard him, Rico rock. Larry Zonka said it when I won Gladiators, because I rock as I'm doing now. I have to be in perpetual motion when I'm awake, but I use that time to think, develop, and stuff like that. That's, a lot of it's mental in the wrestling game.
Well, he said it best. Thank you for being such a huge part of my childhood growing up as a wrestling fan, and just thank you so much for being you, for being Rico, for being OVW Rico, for being the stylist Rico, for being you. And I think that I'm good with this interview. If you are,
we should do this. I'd like to do it again sometime.
For sure.
Just call me.
Okay.
I work. I'm not I'm retired law, but now I work for an insurance company, and I'm a supervising field agent and a road supervisor for all the Caesars Palace properties and stuff like that, and all the limousine companies, taxi cab companies. I investigate accidents, risk management, loss prevention. So, I'm 60 and I'm working 48 hours a week, which is not bad. I call it a swing yard.
For 60,
4 p.m. to 4 a.m. or maybe longer. But it's a good gig, and I love what I do.
Like Cornette said, when you were 38, you looked 25, so now you look, 47? So, yeah, you're doing good.
You look amazing for 60.
Doing great for 60,
thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks to the man upstairs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for contacting me.
We'll do this again.
I would love to come back.
Yes, sir.
I'd love to come back.
It was great talking to you. Have a great one.
You too.
Thank you. Hey, everybody, it's Morty.
It's Brian.
And thank you for watching today's episode of Developmentally Speaking.
If you could, please click that subscribe button.
And don't forget to punch that bell icon so you can get notified whenever we go live or drop a new video every Monday. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next
Developmentally Speaking.